Hello, everyone. It is Tiffany of Clarity, Confidence, Courage, Women's Empowerment. I am a women's life coach that helps heart-centered, divorced, empathic women who want to rebuild, redefine, recreate lives that they absolutely love. In today's video, it is the part 2 of a 2-part series where I interview Naomi Morad, where she is a therapist that really focuses on trauma, especially when it comes to depression, PTSD, anxiety, like the whole gamut. In this part 2 series, she digs a little bit deeper into patterns, into really how to reframe different experiences that you had in your life so that you can move forward. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoy the video. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe, and let's jump into this content. And Naomi, when, based on what you just described, when you're in pain, a woman is in pain, and it's like, nope, I'm not going to hear you. I'm going to just push you down, as I like to say, and I'm going to continue to self-sacrifice for the good of all.
Sabotage.
When you're in that situation, and I've talked to clients and including myself and other people that I've talked to, and you've gotten to that point, especially if you have a great therapist and you recognize, okay, I'm in pain, I'm pushing it down, but you get to that magical place where you're like, oh, I think I'm understanding better how to observe. I'm doing a lot better. But now, because I am changing and I am no longer identifying with the trauma, there are people in my life who may or may not be too happy about that. And they actually might get upset that I'm not as aggressive anymore or angry anymore or depressed anymore. They might be like, "What's wrong with you?" And you're literally just existing. How how do women, how do we navigate that, especially when it comes to family? And we have changed and we're zen and we're in our peace and we're enjoying life again, and they're still in the pattern. And so they expect you to continue to behave, but you're no longer in that space. So it's almost like a disconnect. You're not angry with them, but you're also not willing to participate in the drama. Like, what then? How can we navigate that?
I have goosebumps when you say not to participate in the drama, because that's exactly it. Because people get energy by participating in the drama. It's like they get psyched up and they get like emotional, and it's funny, but we get energy from that. Like we can get a lot of energy from negative behavior. And when one person starts to change in that dynamic, the other part of the family or whoever that is, husband or family members, they want that energy back. They want those arguments, those screaming arguments, the rage, the victimization. They want to keep going. They don't know anything different. And it's very, very important at that stage to listen to yourself, to what is right for you. Because your family will try to suck you back in with all they can. And that's where it's very important, where you need to build these boundaries, very clear boundaries. And we build these boundaries by listening to what is right for us. It's like we're so used to saying yes to others and no to ourselves, because it's more comfortable, because it's hard to stand up and say no and yes to me. We've been so trained to give in, to say yes, because you save yourself the headache. I don't have to argue. I don't have to get into this whole argument. And it's really about being clear and honest with yourself and listening to those parts that say, this is not healthy for me. This is not good for me. And if that means not getting together with those family members, then that's what it is. And if it means saying no, this yes, but this not, then that is true. And if it means maybe to avoid phone calls even with them or any kind of contact, then that's what it means. Like we have to each individually find what is exactly right for me. And I think it takes time to understand what yes and what not, and for the other side to understand, oh, okay, she's not playing anymore. They'll keep on trying. And even after they stop trying because they understood, okay, she doesn't play anymore, After a while, they'll try again and again because they want you back. And it's up to you every time to say, enough, no more.
When you are able, from my experience and from other people that I've talked to, are in a position where you are on this journey of healing and it's easy to say no to, the person at the cashier, or it's easy to confront the person at your job, or it's easy to confront, your ex-husband, but something about family, it is very difficult. And I've had people comment on my YouTube like, oh, this is so great, but my family, how do I do this with my family? And one thing that I've also come to discover through therapy is that I had to sometimes, and people I've talked to, same thing, I had to change the perception of, oh my gosh, this is a terrible thing. I have to cut this person off, or I have to fight. I changed the perception to, oh, this is great practice. What do you think about that, Naomi? I mean, I think you have to have a balance between, um, this is a person I absolutely do not want to have anything to do with ever, ever, ever again, versus, oh, this is great practice. And I think for especially women who are still dealing with their ex, they may have children, they may have to co-parent. You can't always cut someone off clearly. So, what is your thoughts about using some of those difficult persons in our lives, or challenging persons, as practice?
Love the practice. I love that approach. I think it's amazing. And I will often find myself saying to people, you know what? This difficulty is an opportunity for you. This is an opportunity for you to grow, to learn, to understand where your own boundary is. And I always say that people can only still get to us. Doesn't matter whether it's family, and with family, obviously it's most difficult. Okay. But it's the opportunity for us to learn what is it that they can still trigger in me?
Mm,
What is still unresolved in me that allows them to still get there, to
mm,
still hurt me? Because when my boundaries are all clear, then they won't even try to get to me, because they will feel that there's no entry. People only keep on trying when they feel like something there is still unresolved. And I think it's our opportunity to become aware of these spaces within us, and to bring healing to those parts as well.
wow.
And I think especially for all the mothers in this world, um, our kids, they challenge our boundaries all the time. And I've noticed that when I'm not 100% sure about something and I say no, they'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And in the end, I'm just like, okay, do it, take it, whatever, I give in. But when something is really, really clear to me where that boundary is like 100% clear to me, they won't even argue. They won't even think of arguing with me. They just take it as a matter of fact, and that's it. And that's where it ends.
Since we brought up motherhood, I think I've shared with you, and I've probably said this, and I'll probably say it, and then I'll change my mind 10 years later. But I've shared with you, and I've said it to my friends. I'm like, the greatest gift I ever gave in this world was not having children. And I say that jokingly, but for me personally, and I know women who feel in similar awareness, because they're like, I don't want to pass down the trauma. I don't want to pass down another generation of some messed up kid because of me. And so I think, for some of our viewers who are moms who are like, I don't want to pass down the negative stuff. I want to pass down the good stuff, but I also don't want to pass down negative stuff to my children. For women who are contemplating having children, what can you give them? And I'm glad you brought up children, to help them kind of navigate motherhood. How do mothers that have gone through traumatic experiences, or clearly who have gone through a divorce, because divorce is traumatic for the child as well as the parent, how do they then navigate that? And so that their kids, I don't think any child is never going to have challenges, but so that they're not quote, quote, messed up because of it.
It's a very important point. And but before I address that, I think we have to understand that those who are terrified of passing on trauma and those who are not terrified, we've all gone through trauma. I've never met anyone who, even those who had the perfect childhood, they feel like they were traumatized by their parents in one way or another. Doesn't matter how good a parent you are, your kid is going to take some scars with them, whether you want to or not. That's just life. And from really early on, when my oldest daughter, she was 2 years old, I noticed that my daughter is a mirror of me. The way I behave, she behaves back. When I'm nice and kind, she's nice and respectful back. When I'm not so nice, then she wasn't so nice. She could be like quite like vicious in her response. And I thought, this is really interesting. It's like our kids are a reflection of us. It means what I send out to my kids and to the world, this is how the world will reflect itself back to me. And that takes me back to awareness. Awareness in everything that we do. Awareness and taking responsibility. Because once I learned that my behavior has a direct impact on my child, I was like, uh-oh, I have to watch the way I speak. And often we're not conscious of even what comes out of our mouths. We just say things sometimes because we're tired or we're angry, and doesn't have to do anything with the kid. Okay, I just had a bad day because of whatever. And it's becoming aware that our actions have a direct impact, and becoming aware of what it is that we say, how we behave, and taking responsibility for ourselves. Because nobody can do that for us. Only I can take responsibility for my own actions, for the words that come out of my mouth, of how I behave, of whether I become a victim when I talk to my kids, or if I'm too aggressive or impatient. I have to catch myself every time. And if I can't let go and I cannot change that pattern, that behavior, then again, it's my responsibility and my choice if I want to work on those issues and heal that pain inside of me so I don't pass it on to them.
I love that. That's amazing. And I love how you said, showing up and this idea of who do you want to show up as with your children? Do you want to show up as the loving, caring mother who clearly loves them, or are you showing up as the traumatized child from your childhood?
Exactly.
I think that's deep. And I think that connects to, even if you, like you said, if you don't have children, how are you showing up in the world? Um, that's something ironically that I practice. And I talk about this in my coaching program, but we talk more about branding and goals. But just in personal practice, like writing out like who I am, my beliefs, my values, my goals, what I stand for. And what I found is in doing that, things came out that I didn't even realize were there. Do you find that, Naomi, that when you're working with your clients and they're trying to progress forward, they've kind of hit some really good goals, they're in their stride, that the person that they become not only changes for the better, but they transform.
Completely. Completely. It's beautiful to see. That's what I love about the work that I do. I love the process of transformation, to see how they start shedding the layers. Okay, and how more and more of their true self comes out. Because often when we first start therapy, we're so consumed with our own pain and suffering, whichever way that shows up. And that doesn't matter if you're the abuser or you're being abused. Both carry a lot of pain. It just comes out differently. And they come with that, I always look at it, it's like that it's like a hard rock, okay? And then that rock starts to become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then they're like, they become like little rocks. And slowly that pain that they first came with is starting to disintegrate. And as that happens, there's more and more room for their true self to shine, for their true light to shine. Because that rock is just a reflection of, I have to protect myself, okay? I'm so hurt, I just need to put this rock up here in order to be safe. And when you work through the patterns and the beliefs and the pain and all of those layers and reconnect to your inner child and bring healing to all those places that have been left behind, automatically there's this light of healing that starts to shine through, and that plays out in everything we do. And it's like you say, the person transforms and becomes really literally a different person, and their interests start to change and to grow, and suddenly there are new people showing up in your life. And there was something you mentioned before about, how do people react to, or your family and your friends react to when you change? We spoke about that. And the interesting part is that often those people that we associated with in the past, they'll just naturally fall away. Maybe not our family so much, but the relationship with our family will completely change. And those friends, that people that we used to feel close to, suddenly we will feel that we don't have anything in common with them anymore. And new people will start showing up in your life, and you'll build new bonds and new relationships that are healthier and that actually help you grow instead of put you down and keep you small.
And I know, Naomi, you and I had spoke before, and you gave me a nugget of wisdom. I'm like, that is something she has to say that in the interview. We were talking about this concept of when you have gone to therapy and you were like on one end of the spectrum, and then you're getting better and you completely shift to the opposite end of the spectrum. How do you navigate that when you're a person who's like at one point she was a complete people pleaser and now she's super selfish? Like, how does someone find that balance? And you described it to me so well. I would love for you to share that with our audience.
I used to take music lessons, and into my second or third year of singing lessons, I found myself from being quiet to expanding my voice too much and being too loud. And I was really struggling with finding that balance. And my music teacher, she said to me, in order to find how much is just enough, you have to understand how much is more than enough. Which means that sometimes we have to go from one extreme to the other in order to find our balance. Mm. It's like, if I only know how to be this, I have to experience and get a taste of what it is to be that. And then I can find my middle ground and understand, okay, this is my middle ground. This is my middle ground. And it takes time to learn that. And that's really a lot of what I focus on also when I work with my clients, is to help them reach that middle ground where they don't have to be hyper and they don't have to be up and they don't have to be down. And sometimes it feels like they're lacking something, especially people who are used to being very depressed. They come to me and they're like, I don't feel anything. And I said, do you feel bad? They're like, no, I just don't feel anxious, or I don't feel down. I don't know what I feel. And it's that void of feeling that intensity of the feeling, the intensity of being hurt or sad or angry or scared. And suddenly there's just quiet. And people are not used to quiet. We don't know. Sometimes we're like, wait, what is this quiet? And that's our middle ground. That's where I can just be and observe and not react. and I'm free to just be me. That's where all the colors are available.
I think that's such a great analogy, especially for our artists and our musicians, and could probably completely relate to having to go from one to the other and then find your balance. And it's okay. It's no judgment. It's part of the process. And it's so funny, everything that you described. I know when I first felt that feeling of indifference, I'll call it indifference, but it really felt like a void. It's like, what is happening to me? I don't feel anything today. And it's not because I'm angry or depressed or super happy. It's just like this level of, I don't know what to call it. For me now, it's normal. But like you said, there's no really, really high and there's no really, really low. It's just like a status quo. And I do think for when you first experience that feeling, it feels really weird. So yes, thank you. Thank you for talking about that to let people know that's completely normal. Uh, One thing, and I know we're getting close to time, Naomi, I know now that you are speaking about this. You're stepping out on stage and you're speaking to audiences about trauma and a lot of different things. What gave you the courage and the confidence and really the conviction to feel like, okay, now this is something that needs to be spoken on stage about? We need to reach the masses and the larger audiences.
I actually had to work through a lot of my own trauma to find the courage because for many, many years, I've known and that I need to convey my teachings, my understanding of how trauma affects our body, mind, and soul. And that there's a way to heal from anything. I've known that this is something I need to pass on to the world, that this cannot just stay with me. And I've had my own story of trauma. It's not for nothing that I am in this profession. And I've been through severe abuse and trafficking and a lot of trauma for the first 20 years of my life. And it took me a lot of time to heal and to feel safe enough in my own being to step out into the world, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like working one-on-one was one thing, but stepping out into the world and being seen, that was my weakness. That was my weak spot. Okay, my biggest fear, really. And I'm ready today, and that's why I'm ready to do this work and bring it out into the world.
Mm.
And I think it's
Yeah.
really important for people to understand. And I know that from my own personal experience and from having worked with so many people for over 20 years, that no matter how big your pain, no matter what your story, that you can heal. And I think it's something that has gotten lost today, that message, that understanding. In today's world, people are so quick to go to antidepressants and pills and drugs and alcohol, doesn't matter what, in order to numb their pain. And I really, it is my desire, so I want to say my calling, for people to know that it's possible to heal no matter what you went through. There truly, truly is a way.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that every time a human being is able to step up, like you said, and say, I went through my own healing journey. It is difficult, but you can get through it. Just that sentence of letting other people know who have gone through similar situations or have gone through trauma to know they're not alone and there is a way out. and it is possible to come out on the other side. And to have learned that about you, Naomi, and to meet you clearly, I'm sure everyone can feel it the way I feel it when I talk to you. You're so calm and you're so calming. Talking to you calms my nervous system. So to see someone like you so eloquently and gracefully talk about how you went through your own trauma and was able to heal and move past it, it's like, wow. If she, seeing what I see in front of me, this beautiful woman who is so graceful and beautiful and calm, if she can get herself to this point, maybe I can too. And I think that, that's the reason why I stepped out and talked about what I talk about, is because I started to realize this is not just a Tiffany issue. And if Tiffany doesn't use her own voice to speak out, I am denying the world my gifts. So thank you so much for having the courage and the confidence to step out and talk, because I know you're going to change so many people's lives, and clearly, clearly you have touched me, and I'm so thankful to have been able to meet you and to experience you, and I can't wait. So much more to come in the work that you're doing. Naomi, I
Tiffany.
absolutely. I want to ask you, what is the biggest motivational message that you can tell anybody, but especially a woman who is going through or has gone through a divorce, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going through this situation. My partner may or may not have been, toxic or, abusive, or we have children, we don't have children, we got to get rid of the house, and all these things that are going on in her mind. What is the biggest, and I know there's so many, but takeaway that you can leave her with?
That it's okay to get help. Number one. Often people feel like they're all alone and they have to deal with everything on their own. I think really to reach out, create a network of help in whichever way they can, even if it's friends helping out with their kids, if it's talking to different people and seeing if there is a therapist that they can get help with, getting all the support that you need. Because when we go through very difficult times, then we're often depleted. All our resources are like, we're exhausted. So first is like, surround yourself with all the help that you can get. And then start doing your work. Know that there's a way out, that it can only get better from here. And I want to say, take responsibility for changing your life. Like, start looking at yourself. Once you're surrounded yourself with a network of people that like give you a hand, then see what it is that you can do to help yourself heal, help yourself grow, to get back on your feet, because nobody can do that for you. We want others to save us, to rescue us, to like grab us from there and like say, let me get you out of there. And we're waiting for the prince or for the princess to come and rescue us. But that's just a fairy tale. And the prince or the princess is inside of me. And when I recognize that I have that power and I can make those changes, that's when my world starts to transform and to change.
And thank you. I feel like on that note, that really helps us wrap everything that we talked about. This idea of you have the power. It lives inside of you. You can reach out, but until you get to that space where you're willing to say, okay, I can do this, and I'm gonna reach out to the appropriate person to help me. Like, it starts with you.
Right.
So I could go on and on and on and talk to you, Naomi. You're so calming, but I know we have to wrap up. Can you tell our listeners where we can follow you, where we can contact you if someone wants to contact you for therapy? All of the information, feel free to just tell us all of it.
I have a website. It's naomimorad.com. NaomiMorad, naomimorad.com. You have all of my information on there. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. And my telephone number is 404-953-3490. That's 404-953-3490.
Perfect. And everyone, I'm going to also put all of Naomi's information in the description below. So make sure that you check out the description, or you can message me directly if you have more questions, but you will definitely get all of her contact information. Naomi, thank you so much for this interview. I'm so excited to release this because I know it is going to touch someone's life in a way where they need it at the right time, at the right moment. So thank you again so much. And thank you to everyone watching. I, I, I'm blown away. I'm speechless. There's nothing else for me to say. Thank you again, Naomi.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Naomi Morad. This was a two-part series. I was so happy to get her on here. So much of what I talk about when it comes to trauma, when it comes to recreating your life, you have to get past the trauma. You have to get the help you need. All of Naomi's information is in the description below. So if you want to reach out to her personally to schedule a call, she is, of course, online. She does telehealth. I highly suggest it. She is an amazing, amazing person. All right, everyone. I hope you liked the video. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.